Welcome to another episode of Health Hustle Chronicles, where the grind meets growth in the world of healthcare. As you know, this ain't your typical podcast because I bring you the freshest, the livest guests from around the world. Craig. And today we have a very special guest. Goes by the name of Rick Tamno. He's a polished professional pursuing a nonprofit management executive certificate at Georgetown University. He is equipped with 10 years of experience in early childhood education, community engagement, and nonprofit, as well as project management. Rick is a two-time alumnus of University of Maryland, College Park, where he earned his undergraduate degree in African American Studies and a master's in public policy. Currently, Rick serves as the co-founder and executive director of Readers All, Inc., a nonprofit focused on derailing the school-to-prison pipeline through education. In addition, Rick, he's also a proud member of the Forbes Black Community, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Inc., Omicron Delta Kappa Sigma Circle, New Leaders Council, Maryland Fellow, the Black Professionals in International Affairs, and the National Black Professional Lobbyists Association. Please put your hands together. Let's welcome Rick to the stage. What's up, Rick? Welcome to the stage, man.
Hey, Patrick. Thank you for welcoming me and for the warm introduction.
Man, your bio's impressive. I got so much to go on just off of your bio. But we're going to dig into that here in a minute. But first, before we get into your background and your professional life, I have to comment on your style. You're always the sharpest looking guy that I've seen in any photo across social media. What's up with that vibe, man?
Thank you for that. So for me, I just believe that our image, especially as a Black man, that our image means a lot. So for me, I like to show up how I want to be dressed. So I'm always dressed up. So whether that's going to class on a Friday morning or just working from home, I am always dressed up. So this is how you always see me.
And for those of you that, you're not watching the podcast, you're just listening to it, let me just give you a little bit of some insight so you can just kind of imagine what Rick looks like. If you remember Coming to America back in the day when it first came out, right? And then Eddie Murphy was walking down the street and he had his big, he had his suits and everything on. That's Rick, man. In every photo, he looks like that. So you're always, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So introduce yourself. Help people get to better understand who Rick is. So let's start out with your your personal life. Who are you?
So again, thank you so much, Patrick, for having me as a guest on the podcast. Hi, everyone. My name is Rick Tamno, and I went to the University of Maryland, where I did my undergrad and grad school. For undergrad, I majored in African American Studies, and I minored in Law and Society. And for my master's, I earned a master's in public policy. And my college education really influenced and inspired my future. So a lot of things that I do right now is because of my experience on the college campus.
So I have to ask, there's a couple of questions just off of your personal life. One, you got your undergraduate and your graduate degree from the same university. How did that come about? Why did you end up getting both from the same place?
So when I went to the University of Maryland, I was originally a government major with the goal of going to law school afterwards. Okay. But during my sophomore year, they have a program called the BA MPP program. So essentially, it's the 4+1. So it was an opportunity for me to get my bachelor's and get my master's degree the next year. So one of my professors shared this opportunity with me as a sophomore and recommended that I apply for the program. And I applied for the program and I got into the program. So once I got in, I figured I could just stay and earn my graduate degree from the University of Maryland on the same campus in the next year.
I was going to say, now, by doing both together, does it shorten the time or is the time short?
Yes, it shortened the time because a lot of the classes I was taking at the graduate level were counting towards my undergrad requirements.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about
the elective class? So my elective class for my undergrad were my graduate degrees classes I was taking.
Okay. Now, what about you said you had a degree in African American Studies. Do people even get degrees in that anymore? Is that a thing or what?
I don't know about anymore because I'm not on campus no more.
Yeah.
But I do remember that the reason why I majored in African Studies is because I was really interested in learning about the history of Black people in America. Because when I went to Maryland, I was a government major and pre-law. I was on the pre-law track. But while I was on campus, there was always Black kids protesting. There was always Black kids organizing. And I didn't understand why they were organizing for, right? So I think for me, wanting to understand the Black students' experience, that's what led me to take a class in public policy. And actually, shout out to my professor, Dr. Dinwiddie, because she was my first professor in African American Studies department. And the class that I took with her was called Public Policy and the Black Community.
Okay.
So this class talked about how, like, from day one, slavery as a form of public policy was kept to keep Black people behind, right? So we studied how, like, policies from day one all the way on to now is meant to keep Black and brown people behind. So when I took this class, I was really engaged in the debates that we had in the class, and it just really got me curious. And I just kept taking more classes in the African American Studies department, to the point where I eventually switched majors because I was really, really interested in what I was learning. And I knew that with my degree in African American Studies, I could always go to law school, right? I didn't have to just major in government and then go to law school. I could always major in African American Studies and then go to law school, because the trainings that I learned in my major really, really helped me understand the criminal justice system, right? Because again, for my as an African American Studies major, I had to do an internship with the District Attorney of Baltimore City, and also just Alexander Williams, who is a retired federal judge. So with working with these two organizations, I really got to understand the legal field. So African American Studies didn't deter me from going to law school.
Got you. And so that's a lot on your personal side. What about professionally? So who is Rick Tamno professionally?
So professionally, I am the executive director and co-founder of Readers All Inc., which is a nonprofit based in Maryland with the mission to derail the school-to-prison pipeline through education. And so that's what I do. And this organization came from my grad school project, because I started a project in grad school that eventually became a nonprofit. So that's what I do professionally. But my main income, the job that pays me my salary is with the Children's Defense Funds, which is a civil rights organization that works to ensure that all children grow up with joy, dignity, and the resources necessary for the well-being.
Let's back all the way up. And I want to, dude, I'm fascinated, because I'm definitely interested in understanding your hustler's journey. As you know, your hustler's journey, we all know there's no straight line for success, right? Oftentimes we have to do some strange stuff to get to where we're trying to get to, right? And yours already, you moved a whole nother country, and then you started on this path, and now you're trying to affect people's lives. So I'm interested in really understanding that hustler journey. So give me some insight on that, man.
I feel like the hustle, either you have it or you don't, right? Because as an entrepreneur, I faced a lot of barriers that didn't stop me, right? So it's in me, because again, a lot of businesses, a lot of first-time business owners, they fail, right? Because again, they just give up when they encounter problems. But for me, I just keep going. Like, I've always kept going.
That is awesome, man. I mean, it's a testament, again, to your mental mindset, your hustler's attitude, your determination to want more for yourself and your family. So yeah, kudos to you, man. During college, did you face any like challenges or setbacks that made you kind of want to pause and think that, man, maybe this is not for me?
No, I won't say necessarily pause to make me think like this wasn't for me, but I did encounter challenges that made it difficult to graduate, just like all of us, right? Like I think there's just some aspects, especially with me being the first in my family to go to college.
Sure. In
the sense that, like, I mean, I have a big brother and big sister, and we all went to college, right? But again, I was like, no one gave me any blueprint. Like, no one gave us any blueprint.
Right.
So again, me, because my mom, she didn't go to college in the US. So for me, I didn't have anyone to tell me the ins and outs on how to navigate 4 years at UMD. That was kind of challenging. And also for me, I lived off campus. So for like the first few years, I was commuting about like 20 minutes to campus.
Okay.
So again, I feel like I've missed out on that experience of really being a freshman on campus. But again, but other than that, it wasn't nothing major.
Okay. You're fortunate, man. Definitely fortunate and blessed as well. So I'm interested in knowing, especially for all the people like yourself, how did you land on public policy?
Yes, I think I landed on public policy because of the elective class that I had to take as a government major. So again, when I was a government major, we had to take this. We had to take an elective. We had to take an elective outside of the major, and the elective that I took was a class in the African American department called Public Policy and the Black Community.
Okay.
So again, and that really got me interested and really got me to understand public policy, because there's a difference between practicing law and public policy, right? One interprets the law and one influences the law. So for me, I realized that at some point I wanted to be the one to influence the law based on research and the work that we do in the community to influence the law.
So Rick, tell me, man, what inspired you to pursue this path? I mean, especially you're talking about policy, you're talking about dealing with kids. Like, is this near and dear to your heart? How did this come about?
Oh yes, it is very near and dear to my heart. So again, I'm gonna take you back to my undergrad experience.
Okay.
So when I was an African American Studies major, I interned for the District Attorney of Baltimore City, and as an intern, part of my job was to listen to recorded phone calls of inmates, because my boss at the time, he was prosecuting some gang members in Baltimore City, so he needed some evidence. So one of my job was to listen to recorded phone calls and take notes that he could use at trials. And I remember one day, one of the cases that I was listening to, one of the recordings that I was listening to was a kid, and he was about the age of 15, 16, and this is a kid that was on trial for murder, right? So that experience really got me thinking, because like, here's a kid that grew up in a gang environment, right? The grandparents were gang members, the parents were gang members, big brother was a gang member. So that's all he knew. So this experience really got me thinking to how fortunate I am to having been born outside of that environment. It also got me to appreciate all my mentors that I've had, right? Because because I've had good black men in my life to show me what to aspire to be, whereas he may not have had any uncles or dad to say, hey, be like this when you grow up.
Right.
So that worked really, because I've always thought like, okay, like even if that kid grew up in a gang environment, what if he had a mentor that says, hey, after school, go home and do your homework and don't hang around the corner, right? That could have had an impact. So for me, that was one of the critical moments that really got me passionate about this work that I do, because I believe that it is my duty to be a mentor to young black and brown kids in America, right? Again, a lot of us don't have mentors to guide us, to show us the way. So that was the work that really got me to say, okay, how can I start a mentoring program? And I actually did. So right, so when I was in undergrad, I started a mentoring program called the Saturday Literacy Enrichment Program, and this program was based upon the Black Panther Freedom Schools, because again, back in the days, the Black Panther they had after school programs in which they provided breakfast and literacy tutoring to kids. So for me, having learned about the Black Panthers and the programs, I replicated something similar, in which I was able to fundraise about $20,000, make partnerships with local elementary schools, like a Title I school that all the kids are black and brown, like 90% of the kids are black and brown, and it's a low income community, right? So I wanted to work in an environment where I can inspire kids to say, hey, this is what you can grow up to be like grow up and go to college. Like, we have expectations for you to go to college. So again, so working with kids, and it was an amazing experience. And that's what eventually became my nonprofit, Readers All. So again, this work is very personal to me, and I'm just very excited that I was able to follow my purpose, and that God has been leading me so far until now.
Man, that's powerful. I mean, everything you said is powerful. And there's a lot to go with that you just shared. One, I didn't even know that listening to recorded phone calls from prison was even a thing. And then you're using it against people and stuff like that. So, like, has that been going on for years? Or is that something new? Like, I'm ignorant to this, so I don't know.
Oh, so I was an intern with the District Attorney in 2016. So it has been going since 2016, right? And it's a thing that goes on forever. I think it's been going on for years. Because again, like, even when you call someone, it says this phone call is being recorded. Like, when you call someone, like, it's called collect calls. Like, when you call someone in jail, it's a collect call. So it's literally recorded, and you know it, right? Like, the inmates know it, and the person calling knows it because it says it. So, and everything you say can and could be used against you, right? So that's the whole point. Because again, because you have to understand that gang members or people in prison, they can still put hits outside, right? So again, like, they can still be as powerful inside just as they are outside. Saying.
Yeah.
So so it's important for law enforcement to listen to these conversations to make sure that they can intercept any plans before it happens.
So you got me intrigued now. Did you ever hear anything that just made you like think, man, I got to tell somebody, this is crazy, like something is about to happen?
Yeah. So a lot of times, because the gang members knew that they were being recorded, they just BS. They talk about the drama of the girlfriends, a lot of stuff, right? So again, like you listen to like, but again, you have to listen to like the whole conversation because they know that they're being recorded. So in like the now conversation, the good information is gonna come like in the 50-minute mark. So we're after talking about something random for like 45 minutes, he's gonna say, oh, by the way, go do this. So you have to really be like, oh, he just said that, right? But again, like usually it's all about just trying to waste our time because they know that someone's listening to it.
And then you talked about you raised $20,000 and then you created these partnerships with these Title I schools, but you had like no background in fundraising or partnerships. So how did that come about?
It just came about from trying. Like I had this idea and I said, hey, it's time to fundraise, right? Because again, when I came back with this idea to say, hey, I'm gonna do an after school program, I had to think about what goes into creating a program, right? You have to have a plan. It was like a business plan, right? So I had a business plan, and I said, all right, cool. Now that we have the business plan, we need to provide kids lunch and breakfast. Where's that gonna come from? I need to fundraise. I want to make sure tutors get compensated because back then, I don't believe in college kids working for free.
Okay.
So it was part of the program. It's like, hey, we're gonna recruit college kids to be tutors. We need to fundraise for them. So again, and one of the ways I was able to fundraise, through the University of Maryland. They have a crowdsource funding website that I was able to put the project on there and raise a lot of money on there. But again, I was able to raise money through donations and family members and people that just believe in the project because it was a good project and it had potential. So it was very easy to raise $20,000 to achieve our goals that we had planned.
So how long did you spend doing that, where you was like intercepting phone calls and sharing it with your supervisor so people can get prosecuted?
So that was a 4-month internship experience, and that experience actually made me realize that I did not want to go to law school, right? Because again, if I had went to law school, it would have been to be prosecuted. But again, I saw the other side of it. That said, like, hey, I don't want to be part of the dynamics.
Right, bringing somebody down.
That furthers mass incarceration, right? Because mass incarceration is complex. Like it's really, really it's complex. So that experience made me realize like, hey, maybe law school is definitely not for me.
Right. So if you wouldn't have found like the whole public policy path, what do you think you would have been?
I don't know, because again, that experience and that class that I took, that first class that I took, has really, really influenced me in who I am today. But to answer your question, like I've always been into styling. Again, like ever since I was a freshman, like I was dressing up in 3-piece suits to go to class. Right. And people used to think like, people used to assume I was a professor. But now I would just dress up, go to class, and come back. But to answer your question, I think that if I hadn't done public policy, I'll probably have pursued my dream of being a stylist. Because I was a stylist at some point in my life.
Okay.
But again, it just didn't pick up. So I had to. So at some point in that entrepreneur journey, I had to realize like, okay, it's time to let it go and focus on something else. So
if you could, and this is a random question. If you could collaborate with, a brand, who would that be and why?
Oh, if I could collaborate with a brand, it would be Henry Poole. So Henry Poole, they are a suit house in London. They're one of the founders that created the suits, like suit companies. So and these are like, their suits are so amazing. Like it's well tailored. Yeah. So for me, I believe that Henry Poole is the go-to guy for suits. But again, their suits are really expensive. It's about like $5,000, right? And these are like bespoke suits because it's custom for you. So it's not just like a random suit. And the suit I'm actually wearing right now is Henry Poole. So I got this when I was in London a few years ago. And again, it's just like the quality is just there. Like when you see it, like, yeah, this is a good suit. If I could collaborate with a house brand, it would be Henry Poole.
So for all of us that don't have the fashion sense and fashion style as you, tell us, man, like what's the difference in the quality? Because I'm like, man, I can go get me a $500 suit. You talk about $5,000, like that's 100% more than what I was thinking about. So what's the difference?
So the difference is that the reason why the suits are so expensive is because it's made by hand, right? So that's one of the things, right? It takes a lot of time and it's very, very bespoke. Like it's custom made to you. So you get to choose what fabric you want. You get to choose what body type, like how slim, like how cut you want, like all of that. And they really work with you one-on-one, right? Whereas when you go to pick up a suit, it's probably made in China on the machine. So it's very basic. But I believe that their suits, like it's hard to tell which suit is made by hand or by machine, right? So you have to be like an expert in this field to recognize something like that. But again, I think that you can find a great suit at Macy's, right? And you can rock it. No one will tell.
Right.
When it comes from Macy's or London.
Okay, that's good to know. And I appreciate us going down that side path, but I'm always so fascinated with the way you show up, man, not only on camera, but just out in public. And thank you for that bit of education right there. So kind of like back into it, I'm interested in knowing, because now you're going down this public policy route, right? You're co-founder and executive director of Readers All. What exactly is Readers All?
So Readers All is a nonprofit organization with the mission to derail the school-to-prison pipeline. We have different programs that we work to ensure that every kid in our community has the resources and tools that they need in order to achieve academic success. But again, it's not just about academic success. It's also about like the overall success and the expectations that we want to inspire them to achieve something bigger than them. So at Readers All, we have four components in our program. The first component is the after-school program, in which we work after hours to tutor kids that are behind reading.
Okay.
The second aspect of our organization is STEM exposure. So we have a partner, and shout out to our partner, Drone Cadet, and Tony Reed. He's the CEO and co-founder of Drone Cadet. It's an organization that provides drone hands-on experience to kids.
Oh,
so
nice.
we want to provide STEM exposure to these kids to say, hey, this is what you can do in the future, right? Because as you know, AI is the next thing right now.
Right.
And these kids, these are low-income schools, so they don't have access to these things to inspire them, right? Because again, that's the whole goal, to inspire them, to spark their imagination. So that's the second aspect of our program, STEM partnership. The third partnership that we have is our community literacy program. So we believe in equipping kids with libraries in their home. So there's a concept called book deserts, right? And essentially it just means that certain areas in America don't have access to books in their homes. A lot of people are familiar with the terms of food desert, but there's something called book desert, which is very similar. So one thing that we do is we want to address the concept of book deserts. So each kid in our program receives a personalized in-home library and about 25 to 30 culturally responsive books that are written by authors that look like them, right? Because again, we serve Black and brown kids, so all the books that we give to them are written by Black and brown kids.
Nice.
For example, recently we had an elementary school principal. Her name is Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket, and she wrote a book called The Principal Pals. So the book talks about her job as a principal, right? So it talks about what her day-to-day is, and it's a children's book. So we're able to reach out to her to ask if she could please work with us to donate the books to the kid. And she said yes. So she came, she read to the kid, and each kid received a book from her. So again, that's the whole idea, right? So similar, we want kids to see themselves in these roles and careers so that they know that that's the expectations. And the fourth aspect of our program is the Lodestar program, in which we want to provide kids access to higher education. Okay. And this experience came from, again, when I was a senior in college, I was a guest speaker at a local school in Washington, D.C., like a local high school in Washington, D.C. And my professor had recommended that I go and talk to kids about what college experience is like. So I remember as I was talking to these kids, about like in a group of 20 to 25 kids in the room, as I was talking to them, I asked, hey guys, how many of you have been on a college campus before? And out of 25 of them, only about 3 of them had been on a college campus before.
Wow.
And this is a school where like less than 10 minutes away, there's Howard University, there's American University, there's Georgetown, there's at least 10 schools next to them.
Right.
And they got me thinking, I'm like, well, you guys are so close to campus, to these universities, but you've never had access to it. And when you show up on campus one day and that's your first day, there can be culture shock. There's a lot of things that happen when you just show up on your first day.
Right.
So that was the belief. That was the reason why we've incorporated the Lodestar program in our program, because we want to organize field trips for kids to come around and just walk around campus. They can just walk around campus. You can just have lunch on campus. But the idea is because they're going to be on campus, they're going to see themselves in the future. So those are the 4 programs that we have: the after school literacy program, the STEM exposure program, the community literacy program, and the Lodestar program.
I never thought about that, but that's so powerful. Like for young kids who've never had an opportunity to one, even envision themselves being in college, and to live so close, get that opportunity to explore campus and take the stigma out of it, and then close the gap to allow them to think, you know what, this isn't reach. This is right around the corner. I've been here before, so this is something that I can aspire to do. That's powerful, man.
And I think that plays a big role, because again, those kids, when they show up on college campus, they get used to it, right? Because again, there's no imposter syndrome. They're like, oh, I belong here. I see black people, I see black and Latino people, I belong here. So 10 years later, 10, 15 years later, they have the audacity to apply to these universities, right? Like, because again, they feel confident. Again, and a lot of them could be first generation college where the parents didn't go to college, right? But because they've been on the campus several times, they're like, oh, I can get in. They apply for it.
So your company, and you're talking about, you know, the impact that you're making already, is that locally, or are you able to help kids across state lines, or just, you know, via, you know, teleconferencing and things like that? Help me understand that.
So right now it's locally, because we just started in Maryland. So and we're based in Prince George's County. So right now we're just, and because we're a new organization, so we're just focused locally. But the hope but the goal is to eventually expand, whether that's like through different states, Virginia, DC, Pennsylvania. But right now we just started, and we're building.
What would help you expand that farther and faster?
I think funding is definitely a key factor in how much we expand. But I think over time it's gonna come. I think right now, as I work on the branding of the organization, networking, and all of that, I think it's gonna come naturally.
Got it. Help me understand this. Your industry, the whole public policy piece, is fascinating to me, because I never thought for myself that would be a path that I would take, right? You know, I spent all these years in healthcare, in the military, and things like that. But public policy always fascinates me, because I feel like these are the people that are supposed to represent, you know, us as a nation, right? And, you know, you go for laws or, you know, things to protect us that we're interested in as a people. But there's also a lot of backlash for people who in public policy. So I would love to understand some of those pitfalls, those misconceptions that will help open up our eyes and awaken us to, you know, what you kind of go through from a public policy standpoint.
Yeah, I think from a public policy standpoint is that policies can be difficult, right? Because again, you're influencing and you're changing people's life, right? So again, but again, it all comes down to being able to to negotiate your differences with someone else, right? And being able to come to an agreement and create a law that applies to everyone. So I definitely believe that, especially in today's political climate, we're really divided on how we feel about certain issues. Right. But again, we have to pass policies for everyone, right? So of course, especially at the federal level, right? Because at the state level, it can depend on if it's a blue state, red state, right? But again, at the federal level, which is where I'm working right now, we really have to make sure that this policy makes everyone happy, and that's hard, right? Because again, you can't make everyone happy. So again, just finding that middle ground, that balance, and it's what we strive for. Are
you fearful at all, like for your life at all? Because you were in politics basically. Is that a concern of yours?
No, that's not a concern. That's not a concern for me.
Okay. All right. So guys, if you just joining us on our podcast today, we got Rick Tamno. He's a policy professional pursuing a nonprofit management executive certificate at Georgetown University. He's equipped with 10 years of experience in early childhood education, community engagement, nonprofit, and project management. And we're just kind of digging into his background, him being a public policy representative, being a co-founder and executive director of Readers All, and then being a proud member of Ford's Black Community Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Omicron Delta Kappa Sigma Circle, New Leaders Council Maryland Fellow, Black Professionals in International Affairs, and the National Black Professional Lobbyists Association. Man, you got your hands full. That's a lot going on. You're a stylist. You're full-time business owner. You're out here working for organizations. You're a part of all these different groups. So I would love to know, how do you separate your personal life from your professional life?
I think like work-life balance for me, it's just doing what I love, right? Because like they say, like they're saying that when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work, right? So for me, like when I clock out of work from a 9 to 5, I'm still energized because the work I've done, I love doing it, right? Okay. So like I feel like for me, I haven't experienced burnout, right? So for me, I'm always energized because again, I'm really passionate about the work that I do. So I think that for me, I'm just very lucky to have found my purpose and to do something that just comes natural to me.
In your opinion, what do you think hold people back from achieving their goals, man?
I think it's the fear, man. Fear of the unknown. Putting yourself out there, right? Because again, that's how I met you. Like we were connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We just started talking. But again, like if I hadn't reached out to you, if I hadn't taken that leap, we won't be here, right? Again, exactly. And I think like because again, even me, when you think about my undergrad project in which I was able to raise $20,000, like I just had the audacity to say, hey, I'm gonna do this. Like think about it. I could have just been a college kid that's just focused on partying on the weekend. But I was like, oh no, instead of partying on the weekend, I'm gonna network and see how I can fundraise. But again, that's because I put myself out there, right? And I feel like for me, I just wish that young people believe in themselves more, right? And to really go for their dreams, right? Because again, I feel like a lot of people's dreams die in their head. They don't put it out there and they don't do the work, right? Or someone can say, hey, I'm gonna do this, but then like 6 months later they stop because they've encountered barriers. So again, there's a lot of factors that really plays into like being so self-determined.
Sure.
And just believing in yourself, like, hey, I can do this, and it's not gonna be easy, but I'm gonna reach out to support when I need it. So again, just not being fearful.
I'm interested in understanding because you brought up AI earlier, and in your opinion, is AI affecting the public policy realm or no?
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. So AI is affecting everything in the sense of public policy, right? Okay. From education to driving to grocery shopping. So for example, in education, I'm going to talk about plagiarism, right? There's a big debate currently in higher ed about college kids using ChatGPT for homeworks, right? So again, because you can just put the prompt in and it's going to write your paper for you.
Right.
But again, so universities are struggling with understanding how to go about that, right? But again, it can be a good tool where a kid can put the prompt in and use that information as a guide to do the research, right? Sure. So again, so that's an example of how AI is impacting education. And yeah, again, even when it comes to privacy, right? Everything that we do is being recorded and just put it somewhere, right? That's AI doing all of those. So I think that just the generation that we live in currently. And again, AI is here to stay. It's not going to go. So it's up to us, elected officials, public policy stakeholders, to come together and say, hey, AI is an issue is a tool that's going to affect everyone. How can we create laws and policies to ensure that everyone is safe and protected around AI? So that's a great example of how policymakers come and influence our daily lives.
Right. A lot of us on the outside looking in, we look at our public officials, our political representatives, our senators and things like that. And we tend to wonder if they're actually working for us. Like it really feels like, are they even working for us? But then it takes so freaking long to get a bill passed, and it's like other earmarks and stuff are attached to it. It's like the quid pro quo. I mean, is that really the case or what, man?
Yeah, no, congressmen are really working for us, right? Those elected officials, they're really working for us. But again, It's two sides. Right, you have the Republicans and the Democrats, right? Coming together to negotiate a bill that makes everyone happy, right? And that's what takes a longer time, right? Because again, everyone has to advocate for the terms and the beliefs. Sure. So that's where the delay in passing bills comes. But you're right, some bills can be debated for like years.
Right. You're like, good Lord, y'all been talking about this for 3 years now. Can we pass it?
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. But I will say that it's easier to pass bills on the state level compared to the federal level. Okay. So usually, bills get passed at the state level way quicker than at the federal level.
Got it. You know what? I'm loving everything that you're sharing because this is so foreign to me. And I know my listeners, they're going to be like, wow, this is fascinating, this whole public policy ramp as we introduce you to the rest of the world. So I'm interested in understanding the impact that you're trying to make. What is that?
I think the impact I'm trying to make is just to inspire Black and brown kids to think bigger. Like, yeah, I think that's just inspire kids to think big. Like they say, the sky's the limit. It really is. You just gotta think big. Yeah,
I love that. So, other people who look like you, who are interested in following a similar path as you, what advice would you give them?
The advice I'll give to them is to believe in yourself and to also forgive yourself, because as you go through your journey, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, right? Like who you are as an 18-year-old,
right,
is different from who you are as a 25-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old. So as you reflect on life, you're gonna realize like, oh wow, why was I doing some things like that, right? But again, you didn't know better. So two things I would say is, again, just believe in yourself and forgive yourself for mistakes you make in life, and just learn from it and keep moving.
I like that. Just forgive yourself, because we're so hard on ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And many of us, that hardness carry on for years, for the rest of our life. And a lot of us, we can't get past the past. If it happened to us back then, we're thinking it's going to happen to us now or happen to us in the future. And it's so hard to move on. So I appreciate those kind words of encouragement. And I hope other people really believe in themselves and be a lot less hard on themselves as they move forward through life. So as we pivot, I got a question for you. Outside of work, is there anything you'd like to talk about? Is there like passion projects you're working on, or you have other topics outside of the criminal justice systems and politics that you talk about?
What do you mean by talk about?
Like, I mean, maybe you got a passion project. Maybe it's, you actually write, you're a ghostwriter for somebody and you talk about this and you're
right. Oh, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. I do write some articles.
Yeah.
In terms of education and literacy, but again, that's still relates to work. But I think I have a lot of passions, right? I'm into styling. I'm in a fraternity, so I'm very social. I'm a big nerd on African American history. Right. I'm actually gonna be. So I do love to travel. I travel a lot. So I was in Alabama last year. Yeah, so I went to Alabama to experience the Selma to Montgomery March, because again, I studied this. Nice. Right, so I studied this, and I was like, I want to go and really experience it. And so for me, to answer your question, it will be traveling. So I went to Alabama last year, and I'm going back again this year for the Selma Jubilee, because as you know, it's an annual celebration where like every year, Selma organizes like the march from Selma to Montgomery. And it's crazy because when I was down there in Selma last year, I took a rental and I drove from Selma to Montgomery.
Okay.
It's long. It's like an hour drive.
Yeah.
And people walked. So I was driving. I was like, wait, they really walked.
Right.
And that experience just really made me realize how determined our leaders were. And again, when they walked and they got to the bridge, they got met with police brutality. So I'm just so inspired. Like, it was such an amazing experience. And again, as you drive, you get to some point you see like counting fields. Like, you can actually see counting. Like, it's very vivid. It's like, wow, like this is recent, right? So I think I love to travel, but again, when I travel, I like it to be educational,
sure.
Right? So I was also in Cuba a few months ago, and the reason why I went to Cuba is because again, I studied about Cuba as an African American studies major, in the sense that like a lot of the Black Panthers, that they were political refugees in Cuba. And also during that time, Fidel Castro, he was big about the African liberation, right? So during that time, like, he was a big ally for Africa. So I was like, I want to go and see what Cuba is like. Right. So I went to Cuba, and I was able to talk to locals about the experience, like what they think about the US, and it was a learning experience, right? So again, for me, like, even what I do for fun is still a learning experience. Right. Right. So again, when I went to London, I went to London to hang around and have fun, but again, it was to shop and learn about suits and fashion and all of that. So again, everything that I do has a learning purpose behind it.
That's awesome. I love that about you, man. So drop some lines, man. Let people know, how do they get in touch with you?
Thank you. So the only social media that I have is LinkedIn. So people can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Rick, R-I-C-K, Tamno, T as in Thomas, A as in Angel, M as in Maryland, N as in Nancy, and O as in Oliver. I would love to connect with anyone that's like-minded, that cares about education, youth mentoring, fashion, anything. So I'm very open to connecting with everyone.
All right, guys. So welcome to another episode of Health Hustle Chronicles, where the grind meets growth in the world of healthcare. As you know, I bring you the freshest, the livest guests from around the world. From around the world, our very own Rick Tamno. He's a policy professional pursuing a nonprofit management executive certificate at Georgetown University. He's equipped with over 10 years of experience in early childhood education, community engagement, nonprofit, and project management. Rick is also a two-time alumnus of the University of Maryland, College Park, where he earned his undergraduate degree in African American Studies and a master's in public policy. Currently, Rick serves as the co-founder and executive director of Readers All Inc., a nonprofit focused on derailing the school-to-prison pipeline through education. And in addition, he's a proud member of so many different organizations, to include Forbes Black Community, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Inc., Omicron Delta Kappa Sigma Circle, New Leaders Council, Maryland Fellow, Black Professionals in International Affairs, as well as a National Black Professional Lobbyist Association. Rick, man, I'm going to turn it over to you. Any parting words, man, you want to share with the listeners?
I just want to thank you, Patrick, for the opportunity to be on this platform. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the work that I do. I thank you for the work that you're doing to bring different voices on your platform and to share their knowledge and expertise. And I'm just very grateful to have met you, and I look forward to building our relationship and going from here.
I loved having you, man. Love learning about your journey, your background. So awesome. I can't wait to see you in the governor's chair, because I know you're heading there. So
yeah, I'm heading there.
Let's go get it.